You know, I hate this like linear thing, because I just wish we could like look at each other a little bit better instead of
So
like,
why don't we?
yeah,
Let's turn your
let's,
head.
We can do.
let's be the table.
We're the adults that get to decide what we do.
Yeah, why don't we just be the table?
Yeah, you want to? I think that's a great
I
idea.
think the problem is with the video and the way.
Oh, as long as we don't lose.
Yeah.
Okay, no, we have.
Everything's wired.
We have.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. All
Okay.
the sound system.
Well, why don't we make it a thing, you know, we'll
Why don't
draw
we
that
sit on
and
the
then
end
we can
right
set it
there?
up like that next time.
Yeah, actually.
It's an important, it's not a minor thing, like how we interact,
Yeah.
how we set it
I
up. We
have a
need
hard
to be
time
able
with
to.
this, because I'm
set
looking
that
there and I'm
Yeah.
not seeing this one right here, so.
Yeah.
anyway. So anyway, I
Alright.
suppose we could just like, we could sit on that side.
I could, yeah,
Yeah, why not?
I
If
think
you'd like
that's,
to. Yeah.
that's fine.
We'll make a little bit.
What's that? Did you say something?
I did.
Can you repeat it?
We have wires and everything over there.
Oh, well,
Please
just-
do not.
We're not moving any.
No, we're not
tables.
moving, he'll just sit right there. Just be careful where you pick.
I'm
your seat.
saying, please be careful. These are cheap.
There's just one
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, I will be careful, I won't touch them.
Yeah, there's only one cord here, Peter.
Do you understand why we're making that request?
Would you please just carry
It's
on?
like an extension cord.
I'm sorry, I just asked a question.
And I just said, please carry on your meetings.
Yeah, it's okay down here, I'm looking, I don't know about Lynn's side, but if you're.
Sensing some hostility, that's all. So I wanted to
Thanks for the
address it.
See if you look in there. It's one extension cord. Okay. Great, so. Thank you for coming.
On time.
Thank you, Paige won't be here, she called and said she, won't be here. Or left a message. Okay, so, let's have the roll call.
Chair Watson,
Here,
Vice Chair Howe,
Here,
Commissioner McCarthy,
Here,
Commissioner Smith. Give a quorum.
so you all have seen the packet. There are some amendments, you got yours, Peter, thank you. And there's, this one, oh my God, is that, it looks like there's, it's kind of marked up through it. Was this part of the packet for tonight? What's that?
you want for the agenda?
Oh, yeah, where are we? Approval of agenda. Do you approve the agenda? Would you like to add anything to it? No, Take
Do you need a motion to? a
Yeah.
second? Yeah, I second.
okay. I guess I made the motion and I can. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. So did you want to approve the minutes first? Before we start?
from last meeting.
Yeah,
There are none.
okay. So no minutes left here.
What's in front of you is the minutes. Number 5-1.
Yeah.
Full minutes of signature.
Okay.
There were
So
no minutes from the last.
that's what Ruben just
I
said.
didn't, did we have minutes from the last meeting?
It,
I had
it's
Yeah.
okay, don't worry about it. So
Yeah.
what we essentially did at the last meeting was we talked about some of the other amendments that we might want to make to this. Lynn, did you have any memories there to?
No, I think that was pretty
Things that
much
you
it,
kind
and
of
also
thought was
just how to continue, you know, scheduling for continuing and change and some type of schedule for DOLA.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
talked about that was important.
yeah. It's good just to kind of all get on the same page here.
So in our last meeting, I mean, just to recap,
Yeah.
so you don't have that here.
Mhm.
It was really, there was time urgency because of,
Yeah.
and someone was gonna reach out and talk to Jola.
Yeah.
Do you have? any update
There
on
was a
that?
lot of drama in between
I realize.
now and then, so, you know, some of this unfortunately, you know, the master
Yeah.
plan. It's
So,
gonna take a
so
second.
there's, that's still outstanding.
Yeah,
And yeah, my understanding is that'll be written up by trust or Mayor Smith. She'll write up the request to extend the Dole
okay,
timeframe.
okay.
yeah,
The other one was basically and then there was going through the comments and seeing how you would want to change the document. And then the last one was adding a water element. Was there another
Yeah.
element? Was there more than just one? Was it housing and a water element?
And
Yeah.
maps, I think.
maps.
Maps.
There were a lot of maps, which I think Mayor Smith has in her comments.
Mhm.
Okay, so, great. So, right here, so she has, page submitted comments here. I don't know what page this is on in the packet, it looks like that.
Okay.
And that says, map needed. Oh, so this must be Stefan's, is this Stefan's,
The one that was already updated, yes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Stefan's.
okay, so, yeah, so this is Stefan's work, who made the comment and, so we haven't seen this yet, this is just in front of us. Do you see this?
I don't think I got a
It's
copy
right
of
here.
that. Oh, okay, my computer something.
Yeah, yeah, so I don't know, so we don't have minutes, so let's just move ahead to actions and presentations, and so we can start the master plan discussion, does that sound all right?
Sounds good.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay, great, so, do you wanna just like go through this first, all together, and just kind of look at it item by item, is that where you'd like to start?
I think that's a good idea
Yeah.
because I think they're summarized more easily than the individual documents.
Okay.
You want to read them out loud?
I mean,
Yeah.
they're not, there's no, the paragraph sent, we have we're gonna need to like
Figure out where.
figure it out and find it.
Yeah, where it goes, where it's supposed to be inserted.
Let's do that.
So it does say here, like, so how would you like to do this? Do you want to just go preview them first and then?
Why
go
don't
back
why
over?
don't I find the document?
Okay,
I'll read the paragraph that's in
Okay.
question,
okay,
if there is one, and then you can comment on it.
okay.
I mean, what's the outcome we're going for here? Are we going to approve things in the comprehensive plan?
Like, you mean tonight?
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah.
I think based upon these comments, make suggestions if we feel they're appropriate to, work towards integrating, because that's gonna be something that Dola's gonna wanna know, why are we extending? So I think it's important to like say, these are ones that are highly applicable, maybe, or not at all.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, let me pull up the document.
so I'd imagine once, we've seen the tweaks that we like in it, I mean, at some point, that completed version should be available for public comment as well. I don't know how that timeline all works.
Well, I
But-
think the idea is that, we go through this and we say, here are things we think are important to incorporate and why we want to extend the deadline.
Mhm.
And then, working with Samira and the town on determining a new deadline, because we have to set a date for
Yeah.
the new deadline.
Yeah,
Is that correct, Samira?
Yes, actually, we added, an agenda item to the special meeting tomorrow, so we can give the Board of Trustees an update, because their original deadline had September 4th
yeah,
as an adoption date. It hasn't been noticed because there's nothing to
Nothing.
look at this point. So we'll be asking them about it, but we're gonna leave the September 4th joint meeting Because if nothing else, it gets you and the trustees at the table together, so you guys can make sure you're gonna do what you need to do to get it pushed over the
Okay.
finish line.
So, it would be interesting to work backwards, like if we could get that deadline with DOLA. Find out what, on the calendar, work backwards from there, find out, when do we need this by, that deadline, have we started communicating? Do you know if, Stefan's reached out to them at all, Sam? Or
I do not.
you don't know anything about that?
I think, and I could be wrong, that there's only a certain amount of time, because this is our second extension.
Yeah,
That we can extend to when we make a request, and then we do have to have a public hearing.
yeah,
And that's one of the reasons we were thinking about getting the board of trustees to start setting a new deadline now and then keeping that joint thing together, because I suspect that the only way we're gonna get one is if you guys can give them a really good plan about, we're gonna have this done here, and it's gonna be done. So we're trying to just make sure we stack the odds in our favor, so.
okay.
So then do you think our goal tonight is to go through these comments and see if we want to work on integrating them or just striking them? And then give that to the trustees for tomorrow? Is it tomorrow night?
Oh, no, it won't be tomorrow night. That'd have to be, whatever you're gonna do, there's the 4th. We're just giving an update tomorrow since they had made a motion to have it adopted by the 4th, and that's not possible. So, but I would definitely wanna probably have something for them to look at before the meeting on the 4th, so you guys can be working together and actually, getting stuff accomplished,
Right.
so.
And then tomorrow, will they look at a deadline or no?
I'm hoping they will, but I'm
We're not sure.
We just wanna let them know what's going
Is
on.
the 4th our regularly scheduled planning commission meeting?
Hmm?
What is the 4th?
I believe so. First Wednesday.
Yeah, okay,
It was already scheduled for you guys to be joint for that public hearing, so
yeah,
without the public hearing, at least you guys will all be in the same room.
okay, great. It's kind of these joint meetings, do we run the meeting or does Paige run the meeting as the mayor? So is it a board meeting or is it a planning commission meeting?
I think what our town attorney said is, it's depending on what it is, so if you as a planning commissioner are making a decision, then that would be your guys' vote. Whereas if it's the board of trustees making a decision, so I think you can do both, but.
Okay. Okay, I had one other question. So I neglected to bring my printed copy of that little part of the statute that advises us to what elements we need in the comprehensive plan. Do you happen to have a copy of that with you? Because we probably want those in front of us to make sure that the points that we've addressed are satisfying that too.
What,
So
have weather coming in?
the statute that tells what elements need to be included in the comprehensive plan. And have you seen that, Peter, or?
I have, but I'm here, I'm seeing that it's 2 elements that we're wanting to add.
Yeah.
That was what was, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what,
Yeah,
I think
because
everything else was pretty well
they were okay,
addressed.
okay,
But
great.
it was the water and
And,
land, was it the land use?
So,
Yeah.
I think that what we should be recommending at this point is, remember, we talked about this a little bit last time, which is, we're going to pass, we're on a path to pass a comprehensive plan that won't include those elements,
mhm,
but we will be adding those elements within a certain amount of time. Otherwise,
Okay.
we're months away. There's no way we're gonna add a water and a housing
yeah,
element to this plan in the next, we don't even have our next meeting really to work through as a.
is there some way we couldn't have a meeting with DOLA to talk about this as the planning commission to find out what the expectation is with this grant? And it's it would be kind of nice to have a representative here that we could, I don't know, would that be helpful to you?
It seems like to me, it's just a conversation.
Okay, it's just we're always hearing it kind of third hand,
I-
and that's, I feel a little uncomfortable with that, but I don't know how you feel. Maybe it's,
I'm happy with anyone having the conversation, want
Yeah.
it to happen. So
Yeah.
right now, someone needs to pick up a phone and talk to
Yeah.
DOLA and let us know if we have more time or not.
Okay,
Otherwise, I think we should be
Okay.
going on the assumption that we have more time.
okay,
It can't be an emergency if no one's picking up the phone to like
Yeah.
extend this thing.
Well, I think it's agreed that, they're gonna ask DOLA for an extension and that we should get it, so.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying, I don't think we should be acting with a sense of urgency. Like, we gotta get this thing passed. If, like, we don't know if that's gonna get extended or not. But we were here 2 weeks ago, we were saying, we just need someone that let us know if this is gonna happen or not. And 2 weeks have gone by and that hasn't happened.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, but I think in that meeting, Stefan said we can always get an extension, but we just need to outline to them what are the things that we feel need work. So those are the 2 points, the water element and the other statute.
yeah,
And then, let DOLA know those are the things we're working on. So I thought that was
Yeah.
what he brought up.
this page on the fourth comment down, she says, plan requires that identification of areas containing steep slopes, geological hazards. That is required by the statute to be included in a comprehensive plan.
And that I think Paige mentioned that could be a map
Yeah,
that was included.
yeah. And they kind of had one, but it was kind of all mixed up with that zoning map too, I think. It was hard to read. It had like shading on it that was a little,
There was some, I think there was flood zone in there, but not,
yeah.
I don't think there were steep slopes.
Yeah, the originally provided list of 6 main elements from the contractor included risk, resilience, and emergency preparedness. It's unclear why it wasn't created. And should this be the section to fulfill this statute? So, yeah, what does the statute require? I mean, is a map enough to satisfy the statute? That's.
Maybe we should just start in the beginning and
Yeah,
go through these one
just
by
reach
one.
out. I think so. I think
Not
that
jump
would be good.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah, just say this,
Yeah. Okay, so, the first comment was by Bruner that says general statements throughout the comment, strike adjectives, provide clear statement on the moratorium, lack of effort, possible solutions, C 1996 plan. So, that was to do with the water element. It
Right.
wasn't clear, it wasn't really, the moratorium wasn't very big in the plan. So, what do we want to say there? Do you want to synopsize that like just a water element? What do you think, Lynn?
Well, I think a water element, a clear water element stating moratorium, and I think one of the things he brought up, there's 3 choices. There's enough water to, once the moratorium is lifted, to add taps, there are not enough, there's not enough, or I forget what was the
Just
third one.
I don't know.
Yeah, but he had 3.
Yeah,
And, and I think something like that, I don't know about the possible solutions. Maybe that's possible solutions, is that based upon, once the water study comes in, because it's gonna be a pretty comprehensive water
Yeah.
study, how much our springs are producing, should give the town a better indication of, really looking forward, not necessarily making hard decisions, but a way to look forward.
yeah.
I mean, I just make a general comment that this item would be, obviously, anything we would do as a water element is gonna capture this. We just haven't done the water element
Yeah.
yet, so.
So maybe we can just put in the comments included in the water element. But and we don't really have a water element, so in a new water element.
Okay. And that water element is gonna inform our growth plan too, because it's our resources. Okay,
And then there's a map, it was recommended a map that showed where existing water taps were, ones that were outstanding, and then the ones the mines own. So the whole map that gave you a comprehensive look at water
yeah,
potential distribution.
Is there any was there any documentation in the current plan of the condition of our water pipes? I mean, or we didn't, and that was going too far into the weeds,
I
but
think it is because they're
Part of the
still
water
working
element.
on it. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, we have these grants and that's one of the big things,
Yeah.
is work on piping, work on
Yeah.
storage. So I think to go into it, that's gonna be hindsight.
okay, okay. So there's a comment about the footnotes included in the May 2024. These should be inserted where still applicable. So some footnotes were removed and some of them might want to be reinserted. So that's kind of more of a minor detail maybe.
And I don't know what those were, maybe we can
Yeah,
look at
identify.
what, so maybe we need to just
Yeah.
put investigate further.
Investigate.
That's what
Okay.
I would put.
Okay, so the third point here was plan needs an element devoted to housing, which include projections of population growth and housing needs to accommodate the growth. And there's a statutory citation there. The housing needs assessment, housing action plan needs to be incorporated into the final document in some fashion. There are currently 14 references to this document in the June 21st draft. So when I was looking at the statute, and if we are accepting money from DOLA for housing, which we already have because of this housing needs assessment, you are required at that point to have a housing element in the comprehensive plan. But it has to be included by, it's like 2025 or 2028. It's actually kind of out there still.
Yeah.
And then it also has to be updated is it 5 years, 4 years? We have to keep updating it and keep it in front of us. So that's kind of interesting because, you know, we want to address housing. We're saying that the housing element is missing, but maybe that's one of the ones that DOLA will let us keep working on. Yeah.
So maybe we say
Question
included
mark.
in the final updated version.
Okay, include not in the emergency version. Or I know you're saying about emergency, but you know, the one that we're trying to do.
Because that's the
more
one actually
immediately.
the trustees are working on.
Yeah,
So it really, we can't really incorporate it until once they're finished with it, then it should definitely be incorporated into this document.
yeah. Well, yeah, I thought it was kind of part of the document when they said the housing needs assessment and action plan were part of the document. And that's the thing that's so odd is because it's kind of not, it's kind of hard to see how they go like this. They're like this to me.
Yeah, I think, you know, in this final document of the master plan, that I think they were going to incorporate it.
Mhm,
And I think that's still the plan.
mhm.
It just wasn't, they were two separate entities as
Yeah.
we're working on it, and the
Well-
group working on this didn't really, they were just gonna take that plan and incorporate it into this plan.
But ultimately, the planning commission is the one who approves it, you know, so there has to be some sort of because it has to interact somehow when you think of the environment, how it's gonna affect the quality of life and all these other things we're talking about. It has to be interrelated somehow.
And I think the idea was that the trustees were gonna go through it and kind of clean it up.
Mhm.
And then it was this is what my memory of when we gave it to the trustees and said we'd approve it for them to look at and clean up, and then it would come back to the.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah.
So I
You're
think
right.
that's still the plan, but we maybe can clarify that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it could be incorporated into this document.
Okay,
Because I think there were a lot of questions about height, size,
yeah,
and I think even
yeah.
Mayor Smith brought that up in her comments about bulk and blah, blah, blah.
And I'm at the housing needs assessment as it was presented, it was like ADUs by right. ADUs can be short-term rentals, there's like a lot there that
Right.
needs to be kind of drill down on and to see if it's actually appropriate. You know, so,
So
okay.
why don't, in the comment,
Include
we were saying include in future, in the final plan, but also needs to come back to the planning commission
Okay,
for review.
okay. Are you comfortable with that there, Peter? Okay. So we're on to number 4. It requires identification of areas containing steep slopes, geological hazards, wetlands, floodplains. So the question we had started talking about this is a map sufficient?
I think
Sufficient, and how is the map, what's, how does the map, is it, sorry, and then.
Just
so-
a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is the final draft presented to us from the company who put it together. But if it doesn't have this,
Mhm,
it's required to have things that are not in it.
mhm. We can't approve something that doesn't
Well-
have.
So we now have a final draft that is like won't be acceptable as a final draft.
my understanding was that it was kind of a footprint for us to follow and that it probably would need changes. And I think that we still have like maybe 8 hours of time with the consultants, and this might be a good one to
Right,
come
that's kind
back
of what
to
I was
them.
getting to, which is
Mhm.
who's
Yeah.
going to do this if we.
Yeah,
Pardon?
I mean, I guess we should identify the things that I think the highest priority here is what actually has to be added in.
Yeah, I think this has to be.
This
added
has to
in.
be added.
And it
Okay.
probably a map is gonna be sufficient to give you if it's a good map
yeah,
of all these areas, because otherwise, I mean, you'd have to identify them by TMK, the property numbers, and it'd be a huge document.
Okay, so then maybe we can pass a motion recommending that the board direct a couple, like, why don't we gather up the things that, like, I forget the consulting company's name. What's the name?
Phoenix Rising.
See, why don't we like kind of take note of the things that are absolutely required and then make have a motion to make a recommendation to the board that they request, that they direct them to do these things.
so is that the board or is that us directing them? I mean,
I don't know.
the consultants, I mean, I
I don't
know
know.
we've gone in the direction where the boards seem to be,
We
You know,
can make a
hiring.
recommendation.
Does
And
anyone
then
from
this
staff know
is
the
an
answer to
item.
that?
yeah. But if you look at statute, we hire.
I think you would have to talk with the town administrator, actually, he's the
Yeah.
one who handles the contract, he's at Phoenix Rising.
It is a contract
What,
at this
I'm
point.
sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I said, Stefan as the administrator is the one that handles the contracts with the contractors, so I think it would be something that you would actually talk with Stefan about asking them to do.
And then.
So you're saying that
Between.
just a point of clarification, the planning commission can direct Stefan to recommend that to you?
You can ask
We can
Stefan
make a
to,
recommendation.
you can make a recommendation.
I mean, maybe we need to highlight the most important things and then which ones we would be best to have the consultant get unless somehow the town can get access to this map easily, I don't know. And so we can make a recommendation that either Phoenix Rising or the town provides a map for this.
I think they were gonna use the last hours that they had open, they were gonna save that for maps.
For
To have
maps.
the maps.
So this would be a perfect one to put in, so.
And do we have old maps from our previous comprehensive plan, Sam, or were they included in the previous one, do you know?
I don't
Okay, I don't remember seeing them, but they're kind of important for planning land use.
Yeah.
Development.
Well, I think Mayor Smith had a whole list of maps, and that was a really good list, so. you know, those, if we can get those maps and
Yeah.
really, I think that's gonna cover a lot of ground. in
She's
this.
not here tonight, but you know, she'd probably be a good liaison between the planning commission and, you know, that step and the,
Yeah,
you know, whole map thing.
and so, yeah, here is her whole, all the maps she recommends.
Okay.
And it could be in here too. I mean, this one is map.
Yeah,
So included in, why don't we say, I mean, we've got this line item, included in draft for adoption. Need map,
okay,
whoever gets the map, yes, I don't know, we just need the map.
okay. Okay,
And then here's the next one is all the additional maps.
additional maps needed, so we're on to number 5. Plan requires inclusion of a map identifying the general location, character, and extent of existing proposed and projected streets, roads, right-of-way, bridges, waterway, frontways, highways, mass transit routes, and corridors. And there's a citation for the state statute that covers there. CRS 3123-206A. So to the extent of whatever is, you know, possible here.
Why don't we just say yes,
Yes,
because it continues with additional maps, so it's pretty laid out here.
yeah, there's three more topics that need maps. Plan requires inclusion of a map identifying the general location of public places or facilities, including public schools, culturally, historically, or archaeologically significant buildings. That's my house. Sites and objects, playgrounds, squares, parks, airports. Yeah, we own the airport, it's not within the town limits, but that's kind of curious, it's like it's town owned. It's a town owned
interesting.
facility, but it's not actually within our limits, so it would be important to identify that, right?
Yeah.
I don't, okay, so that's maps. So again,
We just say yes.
yes, we have the same. Okay. 7, plan requires inclusion of a map of the general location and extent of public utility terminals, capital facilities, transfer facilities, whether public or privately owned and operated for water, light, sanitation, transportation, communication, power, and other purposes, and any proposed or projected needs for capital facilities and utilities, including the priorities, anticipated costs, and funding proposals for such facilities and utilities, and the general location and extent of an adequate and suitable water supply. That's our water study there.
So, you know, that's
That's
pretty inclusive, I think, so maybe we say yes again unless we can think of something additional.
Yeah, so we need to make sure we have like adequate representation for the maps with it. Okay. 8, include a narrative or other vehicle to address a zoning plan for the control of. So here we're saying additional clarification is needed, and this is the statute, it's CRS 3123-206F, as in Frank. Include a narrative or other vehicle to address, quote, a zoning plan for the control of height, bulk, area bulk, location and use of buildings and premises. Such a zoning plan may protect and assure access to appropriate conditions for solar, wind, and other alternative energy sources, regulations and restrictions of height, number of stories, size of buildings and other structures, and the height and location of trees and other vegetation shall not apply to existing buildings, structures, trees, or vegetation except for new growth of such vegetation. So if there's existing trees there, you can't make people take them down to
Right.
put their neighbor's yard in the sun, but
And new trees would have to be appropriate for the location.
yeah.
I think that's good, and that also really kind of would address the ADU issue that, you know, you and I have been
Yeah.
discussing. So I think, that should be included.
Okay, so it's like, needs to be what, more specific or included? She says clarification, so it is,
Well, yeah, it needs to be, I think in the future land use
yeah,
area, because that was always blank on all the copies we got. It never was flushed out.
yeah, it was never fleshed out.
So maybe this goes in the future land use area, and it, I think it's definitely a yes. I
Okay,
agree, this needs to be clarified.
so the way this works is, this turns into a zoning plan. And then, the town, we are the planning and zoning commission, by the way. No, it's never written totally like that, but we have the zoning powers that are enumerated in the state statute. But these types of regulations generally come in the form of your ordinances, and those are approved by the Board of Trustees. So my question is, I don't quite understand that transition. What does it look like for us to create this zoning plan? It's the board that adopts things in the form of rules, and that's their power. We adopt the comprehensive plan, and it's kind of an advisory document to them. So what do we need what does our zoning plan look like is my question. And I don't know if we have the answers to that, but,
It seems to me, and I could be wrong, that the master plan kind of indicates things that are important to the community and the town. And then, once these issues come up, then it goes to the planning commission.
yeah,
And so this would be, one that would probably come up later as a zoning proposal, I would think. It could be wrong.
okay, so it needs to be included, but there's also maybe some questions on what's the process there, do you think, or how would you word that?
Well, I think if it, the plan's adopted and as things come up, the town, the manager and the trustees go back to the master plan and say, well, this is what the master plan said we should look at and is important. And then if it's a zoning issue and it's known that the zoning issues really go first to the planning commission for recommendation
Yeah,
and then to the trustees, I think that's how it works, how it would work.
okay. I just know, when, that zone back in, what was it, 2016, when we allowed for living units secondary to business use, and the planning commission's thought was mom and pop could live behind their store, above their store. It would kind of assist in running their business. Like they could have employees live there. And so they voted for us to include that. And I voted no. So I was like, what are we going to do about parking downtown? We haven't considered all these impacts of putting a lot of housing downtown. I mean, you just allow housing, but you need to think about is it going to be, what percentage of downstairs? Is it going to be upstairs? Is it going to be the back of the building? Is it going to be secondary? And it's like, oh, we'll figure that out when it happens, when it comes. But in the meantime, we've had living units put in as VRBOs downtown. I mean, there was nothing ever really described by that planning commission. It was just like, we'll take care of the problem as it comes. And that's what I'm afraid of. I don't want to see, let's just do it after we figure out what the problems are, after 3 people build something and we decide what we like and we don't like. That wouldn't be appropriate at all.
Right,
So-
but I don't think that's really how the
Okay.
master plan that we're looking at works.
It
It's
will
like,
address that.
well, it would address that, there's a need for all of these things mentioned
Yeah.
here. And, these were the things the community was in favor of, and also we were. And then as, like, say it comes up and somebody wants to change a building into a living unit that's downtown, that would have to come before the planning commission in terms of, changing the use structure of it.
So this would, I mean, would this be relevant to like short-term rentals versus, in different zones in the town? That's all part of the zoning plan, right? So
I
if
think
you're,
it's pretty general, yeah.
Yeah.
That it's, anything that's, like if an ADU is gonna be, 20 feet tall,
okay,
is that really appropriate? No, not really. I mean, we all, but we'd have to meet and talk about that. But, here it
Yeah,
says,
it's more
a zoning
location
plan to
property.
control the height of area bulk. And so I think it's a secondary thing where a plan would come in and say specifically any secondary building could only be this high, take up this
Okay.
much space.
so this is more like the location of things on a property. It's not location of where you have certain uses through town. This is more specific to zoning.
I mean, all of the
and
building
control.
codes, even for an ADU,
Yeah.
would still apply, all the setbacks would apply.
Yeah,
Right. all
Yeah.
that has to-
well, I don't know. I think I seem to remember they were kind of being taken out in that
Right.
housing plan that was presented. They were talking about fast tracking things and removing.
don't
I
think
definitely know that anything with ADUs, all of the housing code still applies, all the
Yeah.
setbacks
Yeah,
still apply.
I don't think
That's-
that could
Okay.
take
that
it
does-
out.
Okay,
There's, I don't think
for
there's one-
secondary buildings.
There's no one, yeah, no one's,
Okay,
no one's sent to take it.
Yeah, I think that, I think what maybe you're thinking of is, when you mentioned, it should be an ADU should only be a certain percentage of the property, and their point was that that's addressed in the setbacks,
Mhm.
that you can only build so big and the setbacks weren't gonna get changed,
okay.
so.
I
So
seem
not
to remember,
necessarily every property would actually, even if they can build an ADU by right,
yeah,
they might not be able to
It might-
based on the lot.
I seem to remember her striking stuff though, striking stuff out of the ordinances,
I mean,
so. So,
Can we- just
but we're
for-
getting
for-
hung up on
just
this, right?
for this,
Yeah.
So I think what we need to do here tonight
Work through it.
is, because look, we're not in any place where we can decide.
Yeah.
We're two commission members met down, and really, we're not gonna pass this until we're a full commission.
Yeah,
We're not gonna be 4, we need to be 5. This is like a 25-year plan. We need to bring another member up to
Yeah.
speed, and it needs to be with everybody.
Yeah.
So this thing is going to be delayed.
yeah,
This is part of the consequence of the current events.
mhm,
So that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But we're also like, I think what we need to do tonight is, what do we need to see from here added in like
Yeah.
a direct Stefan or request Stefan or request the board? I'd like to get a little clarification on that.
Yeah.
Or it just, it
Yeah,
should be
because
included.
we really need to be having a conversation about what is in the document
Yeah.
and really nothing. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
like, it's just an open-ended
Yeah.
thing.
yeah, this is gonna take
And
too much.
this column, what should be included in the draft that's what they're gonna need to use to go to goal and say, these are the things that still need to be included.
So I would say, why don't we go through this and what are the things that we don't think need to be addressed
Right.
from Phoenix Rising?
That's,
Yeah.
I
I
think
thought that's what.
that'll be easier, because most of these we do.
So far, we've identified the maps, there's been some
Yeah,
definite things. that
why don't we
want to
just
see.
say yes and no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a suggestion, Madam Chair, if that's okay. Since we are doing that special meeting tomorrow, if you guys could decide on questions or whatever it is that you need from guidance from the board, because I'm thinking about it, you're an advisory to a board, so that's who you should be talking to.
I'd like to read the statute for that actually and see where.
Well, either way, the board's gonna be meeting tomorrow and discussing exactly this, so if one of you can't come, if you wanna email me something, I can make sure they get it during that discussion, and maybe you guys can get some guidance, so you're not spinning your wheels.
Okay.
It's an
Well,
option.
Let's talk about that at the end, and after we've been through this and see where we're at.
So we go through and it's like, these are the things that we need to have like clarification on.
Right. Yeah, I'm more than happy to ask the board tomorrow night, since they're gonna be together, and I already have it on the agenda for a new timeline.
I guess my concern is, the board isn't looking at this stuff, we are. The board doesn't always understand.
No, but what we're not asking them to make, what we're asking for is Phoenix Rising put this together. There are items in here that we can't even pass this as a comprehensive plan without these things in here.
Right.
So what are the things that, like, this is not the final draft.
We have a
Like,
limited.
this was a rough final draft. It can't be the final, like, a final draft is something you should be able to pass.
Yeah,
This is not something that we are able to pass. So part of the message to the board is we do not yet have a final comprehensive plan. And these are the items that we need clarification on in order to get to a final draft.
okay, it's from Phoenix Rising, not from, yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
whoever.
yeah.
Right,
Okay.
and it's like, in my mind, it's a yes or no, should it be included in?
Yeah.
As a
And
Okay,
if nothing else, since you guys are gonna have that joint meeting with them on September 4th, it gives them time to get answers for you, so
yeah,
your guys' meeting will be that much more effective.
okay. And the whole number of hours of Phoenix Rising. I think, yeah, I don't know how many they have after July 18th meeting, but,
It was 8.
okay,
So we.
okay, so on
Six, we
to,
have a yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just.
okay, so 6 we had yes, 7 we had a yes, 8, what was 8?
Yes,
Yes, okay. 9, additional clarification needed. Does the plan require the inclusion of the Peony Growth Management Area, which was included in the 2022 version?
2024.
I mean, 2024 version. Does the final plan require the inclusion of the Town of Peony Highway 133 master plan was included in the May 2024 version? So I think a master plan does have to have a growth area in it, yes, but
Well, they do have it in here.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, one of the things we're missing, like, we really just need, there's a column here that says consultant reasoning for inclusion or exclusion.
yeah, so we're saying, oh,
We
yeah,
kind of need that, like, essentially filled out
yeah.
in order to understand.
Oh, so the consultant is almost like filling that out and saying, so we're saying, yes, we like this,
Yeah.
and then they come back at us and say, this is why we didn't put it in, or this is why we're gonna put it in.
Right,
Yeah.
and so, maybe we can just say, why was it removed?
Okay,
Why was it removed? If it
Yeah.
was in one of the, they were both
Yep.
in a different version.
Right, yeah.
So,
yeah, and if we
you know,
have
it's a question mark and then why was it removed?
it removed, yeah, and that gives them something to answer. Okay, 10, overarching comment, at this point, I would like to recommend, and this is from Paige, structure and revisions question. Overarching comment, at this point, I would like to recommend that each element contain a single vision statement and then convert values into objectives and reorganize the policies to coincide with a specific objective.
And I recall her reason for that was after looking at Ridgeway, on the master plan, the flow was much easier to follow than jumping around back and forth.
It was more direct and
And she
specific.
gave an example, I think, with transportation and tourism or
Yeah.
something, of how that would be. And it looked good to me. I thought it was easier.
I mean, I agree. I just think, we need to take one thing at a time. Like, we've got so many different things. First, let's get the clarification on all these things.
Right.
Then let's come back to what are the things as a planning commission that we need, because this isn't, we don't need the consultants to do this. We would,
Yeah.
we would need to sit down and reorganize
And
this.
Paige already started doing that just to show us how it looks.
Yeah.
And I think, to continue along that line,
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it makes it, more readable and also, vision, and then what's the recommendation? So I say yes, continue along this line, reorganizing.
Yeah, so the.
Yes, but not necessarily something to direct.
Yeah, I said not consultants. the
Yeah.
PC.
Right, okay.
Okay,
And, yeah. Taking it one item at a time.
Yeah. Okay, so 11, acknowledgements. So this is just, there's a lot of people listed in acknowledgements, it's like several years worth of people. So I don't know, that's kind of minuscule. It's not something that's, it's not something we need to consider right now.
You know,
Okay,
I-
unless you have a comment.
yeah, and I think
Well,
number 12 kind of addresses that, and it just says, you know, these were people who were on the board and they're acknowledged and now they're no longer, so I'd say a yes to that, just, okay, people put time in.
okay. Okay, 13, county committees, Transportation Advisory Board, I haven't heard of this committee, please describe it. We don't have a Transportation Advisory Board we have an airport
Is that
advisory
in
board.
is there that in the plan right now?
Yeah, she doesn't say what page.
I
she's
think
looking
it's
at.
under acknowledgements.
We have an airport advisory
Oh,
board.
this is the.
Yeah. And
Mark that copy.
maybe we just write in, you know, question mark, determine if this board exists or not.
Okay, so that's kind of a minor thing,
That's
those are
pretty
just a minor
Yeah.
detail.
That's not
It's like low priority. Okay,
just question mark. If it doesn't exist, it
Double
doesn't
check
need to be
boards.
in there.
okay, double check boards.
And maybe you should add that the airport advisory board
Yeah.
So-
might be included.
I think, again, it's like, there's certain items that, you know, we've got 8 hours left, right?
Yeah.
With Rising Peaks.
It's not important.
We
for
can
them.
go through and
We
move
can-
around with people and do the acknowledgements and strike out things.
So I'm writing
Well, why
PC
don't-
there for.
Why don't we just like at the top, this consulting reasoning for inclusion or exclusion, just say, write in or done by. planning
You're
commission.
putting PC.
I'm just putting PC,
Yeah.
just to give it to us.
That's good, or trustees.
And again, title page. and
I mean, that's a pretty easy one. So,
Okay. The introduction to the plan requires more explanation of the purpose of the comp plan. We can almost recycle the last purpose of the comp plan. They're pretty, you know what I mean, boilerplate. What do you think?
Yeah, again, I think that's people, like, we should be able to sit down and make a session, just be like,
I would-
let's just hash these things.
I would hope that we could determine where, yeah, plan is important. Okay, we're on number 15. Introduction to the plan requires more explanation of the purpose of the comprehensive plan.
Like, I like these comments, I just think that these are like, when we're ready as a commission
Yeah.
to actually make these changes, we should just go
Yeah.
through wordsmith the stuff.
Yeah.
And then,
There were some that were a little more beyond our abilities.
Right.
Because we haven't been involved that much,
So let's just go back to yes or no, should be included.
yes. PC. Okay, the process of creating a plan is just as important as the outcome, strike, okay? That was very specific, that word.
I mean, that's another piece, like,
That's PC.
let's
We'll look at
still go through that and we
We'll
can
say
just make a
investigate.
decision and. yeah.
Okay, PC investigate. Okay, strike person is just as important as
I
that.
think it
That's
got
double.
repeated.
Good, we can take one off our list.
Let's cross that one out.
Okay. 18, the policies are hopelessly vague and contradictory. So I think some of what Paige was doing is gonna help correct that, right? The way she was really taking a lot of words that were redundant maybe and a little bit diffused,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
So-
it's also non-specific. There's not
So that's not something, I think that's in
Just put not
process.
applicable.
Yeah, okay. Plan organization appendix, appendix should not be part of the plan. That's like, again, we can look into that in the future, but it's low priority.
I think an appendix should be part of it.
Yeah, I wonder what the original one
It's
was.
like a-
It adds more information if somebody wants to look it up in the future.
As long as they know where to find it.
Well,
That's the thing,
it's
is
at
you have
the
an
end of the
appendix.
plan.
Yeah, I mean, if you're referencing documents that you don't know where they are, that's what I mean. Okay, so that's kind of getting a little farther down than we need to right now.
Well, we need to just say yes or no.
So let's just say no.
Just say no. I agree.
Okay. Okay, 20, summary of community engagement events. I'd suggest placing the community engagement and the plan as its own section in the document entitled Summary of Community, Part 3.
And where is it now?
It's there. It's session 1. It's like, it has these different sessions. I
It's
think.
in the very beginning.
No, I think it's toward the end.
This is just saying have like one comprehensive.
So that's just
section.
organization of the
Yeah, let's,
program.
let's put
That's
that.
us.
So, yeah, let's say yes.
Yes. Great. So Pat, let me just go back to acknowledgements at the very beginning of page 11. Did we say yes or no for that? Admin planning commission members, we'll just say yes, we'll look into it and make it the piece.
I think that
It's
it
kind
is
of-
important. And that was, I gotta go back.
It was yes and PC, right?
Are you on 11 now?
Yeah, I just went back. I think we just said yes, PC, can look into it.
Which number?
Right here, it's kind of the same as 12. Okay. Jumping ahead, take that.
Yeah, I think number 11, just say 12 addresses this, yes on 12,
Okay,
so.
okay, 21, timeline, include plan setback for review by when, the sent back without PC after a meeting to schedule for adoption. Is that's, I
This
don't
is-
know, that's kind of NA right now.
NA,
We just don't have enough time right now. Okay, include revised plan presented. I don't know exactly what he's referencing there.
NA,
I mean, I do think I know what.
Do we want to investigate that as a PC? Or what?
No.
No?
I mean, I think there was some question like that we didn't really see the plan.
Oh, I have some notes on that.
It was like, we had this final draft, but then there was another draft and
Yeah,
like certain things were included in there.
but you know, don't you think we're kind of addressing it all right now? Yeah, so
yeah,
I think that's what we're doing right
That's
now.
what we're doing,
So I'm gonna put NA.
yeah.
You know, if anybody ever wants to bring this back up among us, if we feel like you have time or if we didn't cover something, you can. Okay, 23, include previous version, included breakdown of in-town, out-of-town net community engagement. Include number here. And it's like a little too specific.
Yeah, we don't need that.
right now.
How, there's not even a way to really know that.
Not at this point. We've kind of.
It was put out as a public notice and who showed up, showed up.
Yeah.
There really is,
I mean, clearly people who show up have an interest in the town.
and they use the time.
But ultimately, I think it's what the planning commission has chosen and the board chooses that, you know.
Right.
So that was just the public comment in the
Yeah.
beginning. Okay, create designs and preserve, see Scott's notes, page 72, got only 3 dots. Again, that's very specific.
We missed number 24.
Oh, 24. Provide transparency, improve communication between town and community. No, so he's saying it's not a legitimate document for land use document, but I thought Ridgeway actually had a really interesting, it's not exactly that, but they had an interesting, like, start doing like government 101 to encourage public participation and future board members, just,
Yeah,
but that was an action item, and we are not really doing action items with this. So it's interesting, but
I think it's important to have in there though, because in the past, there's been so much question about transparency.
I think let's keep that as a PC thing. I don't know what priority it is, but let's say
Well, he's
yes.
saying strike it.
Let's just put yes in that for right now, and we'll give that to ourselves.
I don't think
You
we
want
should
it?
strike that.
No, yeah, I'm saying no, I meant let's keep it. I'm saying yes, let's keep it, so let's say no, don't strike.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks, we're on the same page here. Okay, is that okay, Pete?
Yep.
Okay, public engagement session 2. So these are specific things like the design standards and historic character.
Where are these in the, like, these pages don't really match up to
Well,
the document?
it was all the public engagement session document, and I don't know which specific.
But is that in the comprehensive plan?
It's
They're like
just
comments.
summarized, they put all the comments,
They put everybody's comments.
kind of how they weighted
And
the
what-
decision.
I mean, but on a page in the comprehensive plan, I don't know what page is that?
There's like an inch worth of public comments, and I don't have them in front of me right now. I left that binder at home. So,
I'm just trying to see them to understand what
Okay.
the.
and this,
Let me
when he
look
says
and
it
see.
only got 3 dots, there must have been a picture that he's referring to, because that's where they were putting dots on things on the wall.
But I don't think it's, yeah.
But you know, the one thing I will point out here that's a little contradictory, if you are saying that we didn't know who was participating, so that should all be thrown out because we weren't sure if they were townspeople. And this only got 3 dots. So why would you strike this too? It's just all part of that.
I guess I'm trying to
community
see,
engagement.
how was it included? Was it included as a comment? Was it included as?
I don't know
I
how
think
they
they
included
did a
those
summary of the,
the comments.
and I'm trying to find it here, I'm sorry. But of like how they weighted things during the comment periods of the public. So
I
it
see,
was
okay.
like. And I think what Neil is saying is, you know, that those should be, they shouldn't be in the master plan. And, I don't really know.
It's
To me,
a-
that's a question mark. I'd have to go back and, like you're saying, Pete, find out where it is in this proposed draft.
Yeah.
And then, is it really important? Is
I
it
mean, I guess I
appropriate?
disagree a little bit with the premise here that like this only got 3 dots, like it's about the comment itself. Is there a reason we should strike out that comment? Like, I mean, it seems to me like the consultants probably picked up on, like, these are valuable, important things, whether one person came up with it or thought that, but it was a great idea, like, it's included. It's like, is there a reason why we wouldn't want that in here? And I can't think of a reason why we wouldn't want to have, like something in here that says create design standards and preserve historic character. Like, so rather than talk about like the weighting of how many people supported that, it's like, if we should strike it if we think that it shouldn't be in there. And I don't
I don't think we
those-
should strike it.
No,
I don't think so either.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
that's-
don't think we should strike anything that the community, this is about the community plan, not our.
I mean, my personal, and so this is like a value that the community has, it's part of the value that makes Paonia, they like this. And we have to consider that in the future with decisions. And the way I see that, I'm getting too far into the weeds, but for instance, what if we do allow ADUs? And a way to make ADUs more affordable, town comes up with 3 designs that you can have free plans to.
Yeah.
And we make sure that our plans look like nice. You don't have to use our designs, but that's a way to
Right.
encourage that. So if that's a value that's in our comprehensive plan.
So I don't
We
think, I
will
think all these
protect that.
strikes, we should say no.
Yeah.
We don't want to strike.
It's too
I
specific
agree.
right now.
Yeah.
So we go from 24 to 28,
Yeah.
that's a no.
It's not what we need to move things forward.
We shouldn't remove, I agree with you.
Okay.
So we shouldn't
So-
remove what people have brought up.
Yeah, so,
I mean, really, I would say that is basically true of all of these public engagement. These were like comments and things that they gathered at the public
yeah,
engagement.
leave.
I don't think
comment
we should
right
strike
now.
any of them.
So
Right.
let's just put leave comment alone.
I think, I think I agree with you, Peter. Any of the public engagement things, we just shouldn't be messing with
Yeah.
them. So those are all no's.
Okay, so that takes us to 32. What is this? Legislative authority.
Just put a big question.
Yeah, we have to look at that. And that's, we don't have that in front of us. That's the planning commission, I think. Okay, just put a question mark.
Can I ask, what is
Oh, county municipal code.
And I think, 33, I say no, I mean, again, it's like,
Yeah.
those were things that were used in order to look back.
Yeah,
We shouldn't be taking any of that out.
I don't think they really based it on the heart and soul. Do you think? I thought they
No.
were inspired by it.
It
So
did when
what
I-
does inspire mean? It just means that we saw people coming together to.
Right.
But,
I mean, I
it's-
read the heart and soul and then looked at this, I thought they were two,
different documents.
yeah, I don't think it leaned heavily on this. I think this document leaned very heavily on the community engagement sessions.
Mhm.
So I would vote for a no on that. Just,
Okay. Okay,
I mean, I agree.
okay. I'll look into it more, but I agree with you guys. We should not be balanced, it's not the most important thing to move forward right now. We should not be balancing growth with our town values. We should prioritize our values.
So
Okay,
this was
yours.
my comment.
Yeah,
I did, so last time we met, I said I would
yeah.
propose a rewrite.
Mhm.
And I like what you proposed.
Yeah, so I'll just read it out loud
Okay.
for everyone. So the original was, we balance growth and development with values of maintaining a small town feel. Dark nights, skies, economic and cultural diversity and creativity, and existing community resources. And my proposal is, we prioritize maintaining our small town character, dark night skies, economic and cultural diversity, creativity, and existing community resources, period. Any development or growth in our community must align with and enhance these core values, focusing on strategic infill, small-scale projects that complement our town's unique identity rather than large-scale expansion.
I think that's good rather than, because your concern was the balanced word.
And
So-
I like strategic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of important, right?
And I'm just going to add that at the end of this meeting, I wasn't able to do it because we didn't have, we've become now an international dark sky approved town, and we didn't have that approval, so I couldn't put that wording in here, but I really want it to be in here because it really determines why we keep referring to Dartmouth. So I did in the introduction, when they say that, I did add
Oh,
some
we can
wording that
add
I
that.
didn't,
We can
I
add that
didn't
here.
present to, I just did it because we just got word yesterday that we are accepted. So,
Awesome.
yeah, 7 years.
International,
Pardon?
the international designation you guys are.
Yeah, we're an internationally designated dark sky town. So, it's really important to be in here, but I couldn't do that until we were, sure we were.
Okay. Okay. I hate to say this, I mean, I don't know if it would be the right place to add it, but something about. I have to find it, it's about something Ridgeway's that I liked here. And it was about recognizing our environment, like so as we. Anyway, but I'll figure that out, but thank you.
But what for the next?
No, it's like the dark skies, but also, when I copied this off of the library and I did a word search, I can't remember what word I searched. Our natural environment, I mean, it's like our trees I'd like to, this,
I think in the vision,
like, how would that be?
the vision is like, and that's where I changed.
Existing community resources.
Yeah, they say our rural landscape and natural resources.
Mhm.
We balance growth and development, so that'll be changed. Creativity, existing community resources, and then I put in as a dark sky internationally designated dark sky town, the protection of our nighttime skies. I just thought, put it right in the vision.
Yeah,
And then every time it's referred to in the rest of the document, that's
Okay.
we don't have to
Okay.
keep saying it.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we're on 35.
Yeah. Let me.
So, Peter's comment, we might have put yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's one where, right, again, I would almost put,
and it's plain.
I would put PC,
PC.
right? Like, it's like,
Sounds good.
we're gonna come together and like, we'll just go through. And I do think what I will do is reword this, getting a little bit ahead, but
Yeah.
like, to add the water, add
Yeah.
something about water. Like, this is number 37, but I don't agree with adding something about the water moratorium, because this is very much like a forward-looking
It might
thing,
not.
but adding something about making sure that we're,
Living-
using our water and like some
Yeah.
conservation or like growth with an eye towards water use or something. I don't have the wordsmithing right now, but I
Yeah.
we can add something, I think, add something, water, the word water should be in that paragraph,
Mhm.
right? Water is core to,
It's our resources.
yeah,
growing-
it's also part of our identity.
Yeah, but it's like we have to grow within our ability, depending on our resources that we, it's,
Yeah.
you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Looking at the resources.
Mhm.
So that's
Sustainable.
really, like town values and development, page 7, that's where, Peter, you did the wordsmithing.
Mhm.
So we could just put PC, town values and development, reword something.
Okay,
We could I don't know, we just refer to this document.
okay. 35, no mention of tourism, this is significant, should be noted in the rest of the plan. There is mention
There
of
is
tourism,
mention,
I don't think there's much mention in the economic, of the home working that we see, I think it's pretty significant.
I mean, it's one of the things that the revision, so
Okay,
under the tourism and local economy.
I don't think we need to add more, that we don't really know what. I mean, are we gonna promote tourism? It doesn't, I think throughout this document, they say balance, or,
Yeah, there's another, so I have another, there was another quote in on page 19 that I pulled out, so we can,
okay,
that talks about tourism.
Okay,
Why don't we
so
just
we're
keep
getting
going?
there.
So,
okay, see page 19, I'm gonna just put a note to myself here, so, for Pete. Okay, 36, strike, 2014, again, we're back to the
yeah,
heart and
let's
soul,
not have,
so we're fine, and especially after we
well,
work
it's
it,
all the strikes, let's just say no.
Okay, demographics, economy and growth, education, civil society, and healthcare. How about uncivil society?
Don't go there, you're in the
Oh,
weeds.
Okay, big issue here. Growth is further constrained by a moratorium. Make a clear statement, growth envisioned by plans impossible. And so again, it's like growing within our ability to provide resources. I mean, you don't want to exceed that ability. So you don't have to maybe specifically mention the moratorium, but we have probably a drying climate, and so we have to be always cognizant and hopefully updating.
I guess I'm
Maybe a plan.
I'm not sure exactly the section that he is.
9, what is this here?
Demographics, economy, growth.
Well,
I mean, I think this is one I would say for the planning commission. I do
okay,
think
we'll
that
just make sure that.
economy and growth, I would agree with that comment, like that water, our ability, how much water we have is going to constrain our economy and growth.
So we're limited by.
We can't
natural
plan
resources.
we can't plan outside of that. We have to include water in any of those plans.
And that's
So-
why the state requires a water plan.
And so maybe, down the road, we can say refer to water plan on page, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but I think in general, like,
A general
just looking
statement.
at this, and I can take this on as well, which is, and I'm not saying like a huge change, I don't see huge changes, but basically calling out the fact that our economy and growth is very much tied to water. Those are not, they're not like separate subjects.
Yeah,
I think should be included in here if we're gonna write 2 paragraphs about it.
Yeah.
I would agree, yeah.
okay, so
So I
that's
think that's
the
an easy
planning
correction.
commission, and we're gonna say yes on the.
Yeah.
And then give it to the planning commission. Okay, again, economy and growth. This whole housing crisis, there's something nationally going on, it's so hard to know that word.
But I don't think in the master plan that this is appropriate to, with this particular statement of putting in prices raised by a ratio of 5.5 to 1, which is great information. But that's gonna change over
I
time.
agree, it's a very, it's also economic data, which is
It's
not
a
all,
moving target.
it changes, it gets revised over time, so
I think this is unknown.
we can say it more generally.
Yeah,
And I think that would be in the 37, you can incorporate something there in 37. Where
I mean,
you're talking about
it's-
demographics, economy and growth.
I mean, this is when we're about to get to the next one, but it's constantly basically, it's saying that the displacing residents, like, we know one thing that's displacing residents. There's 50 Airbnbs in town. The rest of these are conjecture. They're not, like, that is the only thing that's replaced residents. Those 50 homes don't have residents in them. If they weren't Airbnbs, they would have residents in them. So, like, it's actually just a factually incorrect statement.
well, there are a lot of things, like I know people who had to leave because there's no jobs here and they've grown up here.
And the mines.
So there are many things that.
I understand, but the
Yeah.
only thing that has actually displaced an actual resident, like if a person leaves and another person moves into that home, there's still another resident.
Yeah,
If a person leaves and then someone snaps up that home and turns it into Airbnb, there is now one less resident. We have displaced a resident. And my problem with here is we seem to call out every other thing other than the Airbnbs, which seem to be the biggest thing displacing and causing the housing crisis here. So it just feels to me like it's like we're avoiding the elephant in the room and all these things and trying to point fingers everywhere else. So either we point the finger at the thing that is actually causing the thing, or we don't point any fingers at all.
So I think in the housing study, we talked about really pointing the finger at that.
Yeah.
And so maybe in this comment section, we just strike that because that's gonna be addressed.
okay, I think are you comfortable with that?
Well,
I mean, it's just right here in the master plan, it's like if you're referring to the housing study, and the housing study is looking at limitation of Airbnbs.
So I have one exactly on this. So can I, so this exact one is also one that I rewrote. So the original was an increase in housing demand has been observed over the past 3 years, determined mainly by migration from urban cores to rural areas during the COVID pandemic. In 2020, the water tap moratorium was adopted that prevented the sale of new water taps, which curtailed new construction. So basically it's saying that urban people are the main cause of the housing demand. So, which there's no supporting evidence for that.
Mhm.
Okay, so here's mine. Over the past 3 years, Pembina has experienced a housing affordability crisis, primarily driven by the proliferation of short-term rentals. With over 40 homes converted to short-term rental properties, this trend has significantly reduced the available housing stock for long-term residents and substantially increased housing costs. While factors such as migration from urban areas during the COVID-19 pandemic and the 2020 water tap moratorium, which curtailed new construction, have contributed to the housing pressures, the conversion of long-term housing to short-term rentals stands out as the major contributing factor to the current affordability challenges. This shift has fundamentally altered the local housing market, making it increasingly difficult for residents to find affordable long-term housing options.
I don't know, it's kind of getting into areas that you almost, I mean, to make really specific statements about this, I don't know, what do you, I mean, it's
Can I?
like when they.
So the reason
okay.
why I'm making specific statements is because these are specific
Yeah,
statements
I
that
don't
are
like
actually
those.
incorrect.
That's what I
So
thought.
my specific
Yeah.
statements are supported by facts. 50 homes have been taken away from the residents of this town.
Yeah.
That's resident displacement.
Yeah.
So there are no residents that have been displaced because urban people have moved here. Those are new residents. So in a sense, okay. I'm not saying that those aren't other factors as I called out, but I find it interesting that these things are being pointed at, and there's
Yeah.
no mention of the one thing that is actually the most like factual, 50 homes. We know that there are, well, it's we could quibble with the numbers, but it's
Yeah, I'm
probably
gonna
50.
quibble with the
Sure,
numbers.
it's at least 30 because that's,
It's at least
it's at least
yeah.
30, so it's, but isn't it, why was that not put in? I guess
Well,
that's my,
do you
I
wanna
read that
put
and
any
I
of this
think,
I don't think we should put a number
I don't,
because,
yeah.
it's not determined how they're gonna assign short-term rentals.
so the reason why I put a number in was just to highlight the fact that we didn't even mention, to me, it just shows a massive bias going on here. The fact that we're pointing at people moving from urban places in the water moratorium. I guarantee you 30 homes were not built since the water moratorium was passed. There's still plenty of water taps out here and people are building homes. So there
Yeah.
wouldn't have been 30 additional homes built in the last 4 years. So why is it that, and people have been moving from urban cores to rural areas since time immemorial. So why is it that the one thing that is obviously so much contributing to the housing crisis left off?
Well, the thing is, I don't think anybody, like even this contractor, is competent to actually say what's causing. I mean, when you look at the things that have happened in this town over the last 20 years, that conservation easement that was put in R2 platted subdivision lots, and that took at least 30 houses off the market. It was, so there are things that have happened over time that have impacted it. Then we have this internet economy. The internet, then look at the stores. We get our sales tax from internet sales now. You don't have to have mom and pop stores, and internet has displaced the stores. Internet has look at Penny Hot Springs. Everybody knows what Penny Hot Springs is now, and that place is crowded because the internet, people have the phones. So there's a bigger issue here, and you can't say it was working from home. It's just, you can't say it was the COVID pandemic, but I think it's just evolution is happening.
Yeah.
And you can't really identify, I don't think we're qualified to identify all the factors that could be influencing things.
No, but
More than I think
this
we
one
want
is
to.
pretty obvious. though.
Yeah, but I think what we want to do is identify some of the issues and then talk about how we will address them. We don't have to create history here.
Yeah.
We just have to recognize our issues, and this is, they are going to need to be addressed. Do you see? And so I'm not saying no.
I do, I guess I'm just like, it's like,
Yeah.
it's so glaringly obvious that there are at least 30 homes
Yeah,
that were essentially like
yeah,
just zapped away from the community.
yeah.
And
I hear you.
for some reason, we're not talking about it, and we're pointing at all these other things and then not even mentioning it, even as a contributing factor.
So
When it's
there's,
actually
it has
very,
been an
it's
issue.
very easy to argue that it is the most, it's like, that it is the contributing factor, and these
So,
other ones are secondary.
Why don't we say there are challenges? Peonias face challenges, and
No.
including this and this and this.
Well, or just say an increase has been observed over the past 3 years.
Yeah,
Refer to housing study
yeah.
and deal with it there and don't make the rest of the statement.
I feel like a statement needs to be made about
I
the
mean,
effect.
there's a whole lot more reasons, I
Okay.
think, than just
That,
that.
I guess that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
say.
Well, this one is very much about houses, right?
Yeah, well, okay, so, I mean, there are people, I don't know, you know more. about
Let's put it for
short-term housing.
let's put it for the planning commission.
Yeah,
I
to
think that's,
investigate.
again, this is like, we're not gonna make the decision right now on it. But I do feel pretty strongly that we should make a statement in here.
So this
about
is important to not drop and still make the
I
statement.
mean,
Future discussion.
many towns have short-term rental regulations.
Yeah.
and-
Totally, yeah, and I think they're trying to do that here. I mean,
Yeah.
that was part of the housing plan.
But this is like such an, like, short-term rentals as such has evolved so quickly, so
But I mean,
recently.
that is
And
like
we
it
do-
was.
we'll have to get control of this.
Definitely, that
Yeah.
was the whole second half of the show,
Yeah.
the housing
Yeah.
plan was addressing short-term.
Yeah,
rentals.
but it was weird because she put it in and then she took it out
No,
and
she
she
did
said,
take it out.
Well,
We
she said
handled it in
ADUs.
2 sections.
yeah, and then she said 20 per year and then it was like ADUs can be STRs and some communities say no.
I mean, I'm not trying to
ADUs.
try to come up with the regulation.
So,
I'm
yeah.
trying, what my request is that somewhere in this document,
We,
we address, like, if, like, in clearly, this document shows they thought that putting the primary drivers of the housing affordability, they opened it up, right? It's like, this, we want to put the reasons why we're having an affordability
because
crisis.
it's elevated.
So I agree with that. I agree that we should be stating why we think there's a housing affordability crisis. And I'm making the argument that short-term rentals are driving that. I'd like to hear the argument for the two things that they put in here. I don't think you can make the case that they're driving it more than that.
But
I
think
felt
we could
uncomfortable
just
with
say
their
some of the
statement.
drivers.
What's that?
I felt uncomfortable with their statement. I will give you that, yeah.
And so why don't we just say,
Can we put this for the planning commission?
Yeah.
Yeah.
just needs to be words.
Yeah.
Okay, wordsmith. Okay, great, thank you for that. Okay, so onwards. Okay. Economy, abundant educational attainment loss significant, yeah, it's a little silly to talk about educational resources since our schools have left, but I don't know.
Not applicable.
It's like some of that fluff that he's probably referring to on pages.
I don't think.
I mean, I just, as in defense of that statement, as a parent,
Yeah,
I do think we have abundant educational
you know,
opportunities.
okay. I guess I've seen things.
I have
like-
options between a K through 8,
Mhm.
a Waldorf school and a Montessori school, and I live in a 1,500 person town.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Well, I'm looking at, we used to have a community college here. We used to have the high school here. Children used to be able to walk to school instead of being driven at the new high school. So I see it in terms of, so it's still, there's
You
a
had a
lot
lot,
of.
you didn't have 30 displaced homes that were Airbnbs.
Okay, here we go in the weeds, guys. Let's just say no.
Okay, so, okay,
I mean, you could-
it's not as relevant to what we're trying to do right now.
For the amount of people here, I
So
think we
changes
do
we're
have
trying-
some pretty.
Okay, an increasing housing demand.
Okay, we
All right.
discussed that.
Yeah,
and that
this is the one we
refers-
discussed.
Refer, just say
So
refer back to.
refer back to 38. Okay, to 38, okay. FLUM and land, and FLUM is future land use map and land use categories. FLUM and land use categories need to be sure this map reflects what Paonia wants over the next 2 decades. Need to reconcile light industrial term on the map and light industrial manufacturing in the narrative. In addition, I'd recommend the land use section of the FLUM include more detail on how it is intended to be used. And that's a good comment. Is that us or is that the contractor? Or do they kind of need to get some direction from the town before they?
I think, you know, that reconciling the definition is a good one because that comes out up a lot when we're looking at
Maybe
change
this
of
is-
use.
Like, maybe we have a new call, which is this would be one for the joint meeting. Like,
This-
This, like,
yeah.
where we could
Okay.
You know, another thing is, remember I passed around those pages where Ridgeway had a very nice, they had a picture with a very nice description of the different areas, their land use map areas.
Right,
So I should probably look back to that and, yeah. Okay, so that, you're talking joint meeting,
and they did have, you know, the proposed, and that was a bone of contention also, it's with some people, where they proposed some areas be looked at being used more for wildlife corridors, and so the way in which you know, and that was on a map that they actually had
yeah.
in there.
Oh, well, like urban farming, or what was that? I mean,
It was kind of like downtown historic corridor, downtown corridor, and then as you move more out into the rural, towards the rural zones, that to just be considering wildlife corridors in making changes, and I think that's good. I
Yeah.
mean, we are a town that connects to a huge amount of wildlife corridors, and we should be aware of that, and
so
when we develop.
I see what you're saying. The whole categories of, what was that, urban farmland or something like that?
Yeah, it was.
But you know, we're 2 square miles. Why do you need to have the farms in town? As I'd rather see developing resources. I like that term that was in our former land use plan, because I like the urban farm to be my backyard. And it's like, so if you're like increasing housing density, so people live like sardines here, and these people and urban farms, our town boundaries are too small for that. You know, why are you tying up land that way? I'm not saying you should be able to use it that way, but I like the term developing resources.
Yeah,
I don't know how that would fit, but
and you know, I don't think that that's what we're considering here, because that's in the
Okay.
master plan already, that, you know, they kind of did those zones,
Yeah,
a map of zones.
yeah, wasn't
So-
that, she was talking about, okay, never mind.
Just light industrial
More
manufacturing.
detailed on how it's gonna be used. So again, I looked to Ridgeway, I'll pull those out. The Ridgeway land use, the descriptions were very good, and they were very separate from each other, so it wasn't like all smeared together, which I,
I think their plan was all smoothed together. Yeah.
well, I just thought maybe it was formatting, is what I was kind of wondering. But it's like, they had the uses for each one, and it's like, everyone seemed to have the same use for each zone. It was,
Well, I think that, you know, during the public hearing, some of the comments that came up, it was like, you know, it's not clear where my land, what zone it is in. So either the map should be clearer in turn, you know, more detailed. It was, I think Charles made that comment, it was, you know, not detailed enough to know where your land stood. And then Bill brought up the comment that your land could be partially in one and not in the other. But I think the point of that map was just to consider, and maybe we have to look at wording, consider these areas lend themselves more to this use versus this use, rather than being real specific on the map.
yeah,
Because, yeah, it's like land does cross over into being historic and then being regular residential.
yeah, okay.
So, but that,
I'm
that's
still
not
gonna
in
go
these comments, yeah.
Yeah, I'll still go back to those Ridgeway and just compare the two.
And that might be something we look at.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay, so it's not like totally.
yeah, this is just
Well,
to,
we need a map, but that's probably an important portion of the plan for DOLA, but.
right, but they're suggested uses, but I think what Paige is saying here is that just to reconcile the word, the verbiage for light
Okay.
industrial and light manufacturing in the narrative,
So,
make it clearer.
so who is responsible for that? Who would you? who would you-
Well, I think, you know, she brought it up and
I think
she's on the
we probably
planning
have the
commission.
biggest grasp of that right now. Paige
Yeah,
understands the
she
most. Okay.
so it would be
So-
planning commission
I
page.
see Paige. Okay, good suggestion. Okay, are we on to the 42?
Yep.
Okay, and,
This was another,
Okay,
this was the last one from me,
okay,
if I can read it.
yeah, why don't you go ahead?
So the original was ensure an integrated and balanced role for tourism and remote workers in the local economy to allow local businesses, community members in town of Paonia to receive the economic benefit of tourism spending by remote workers while balancing this with housing affordability and development of year-round, well-paying, place-based jobs for residents. So a couple issues here. This whole idea of receiving economic benefit from tourism and remote workers sort of puts remote workers on the same plane with tourists.
It's
Remote
the
workers
new
are
economy.
remote workers are people who live here. So like regardless of how people derive their income, they should not have to be, they should not be equally prioritized with people who come here for recreation.
Yeah.
They're
No,
the priority, so it's
Yeah.
my point. So what I like it to state is prioritize the needs of local residents, including those who work remotely, while strategically integrating tourism in a way that benefits the entire community. Strive to balance the economic benefits of tourism with the preservation of housing affordability and the development of year-round, well-paying, place-based jobs. Any tourism-related initiative would be carefully evaluated to ensure they provide substantial benefit to the town as a whole, rather than prioritizing tourist needs over those of local residents.
I appreciate that. I do want to say, probably about 10 years ago, when the mines were closing, people were like, what are we gonna do? How is this town gonna survive? So there was this whole thing about arts and tourism, but remote work wasn't on the horizon yet. People didn't
Yeah.
realize, and remote work is kind of replacing coal mine jobs in a way,
Right,
you
yeah.
know? So it is kind of one of the newer economies that we have.
Yeah, I mean.
That we didn't know about.
But it,
You
and
know?
it may or may not continue.
Yeah,
neither-
yeah, it's
and-
like
and neither may
evolution.
tourism.
It's another
Yeah.
I
moving
mean, go
target.
to San
Yeah.
Francisco was one of the most tourist visited towns, and their tourism has dropped
Yeah.
off massively.
So you need a balance is what we're looking for, like, balance. I'm
And I-
not saying that in a negative way, I'm just saying
Yeah,
that
well,
with remote workers and stuff.
not if a remote worker, AKA a town resident, doesn't displace anyone by
Yeah.
being a remote worker.
Yeah.
But if I'm running a tourist operation where I buy up the local houses
Mhm,
to be hotels,
mhm.
then that is displacing town residents. So that, I don't want to find a balance between tourism, like we have this, it's sort of this, the way it sounds here, it's like we want like just as many tourists as we have remote workers. No, remote, we want the town to be a town. Like,
Yeah.
we want every house here to be filled with our neighbors.
Yeah,
And if we could do that with no tourists, that would be great, right? If we did that with residents that had great paying jobs, like sort of like back in the day when people worked in the coal mine, right? It was a town,
mhm.
like that's, we should, so tourism, the problem with tourism is it displaces people. And the way it's being practiced right now is absolutely displacing people. So I just have this problem with this equivalence here of these two things, because one is really benefiting the town. Remote workers who come here, they bring kids, their kids go to the school, those schools hire teachers, right? Tourists who come here stay in houses that sit empty half the time. They may not even spend, they very likely don't spend as much
Yeah,
as a remote worker living in town with a 6-figure job. So, it's like,
It's not just.
I don't want to find a balance
Short-term, I mean, this is a side and it's not really related, but tourists don't just stay in short-term rentals. They stay in their families' houses, they stay in motels, we've got the hotel. So they stay all over the place. But to get back to this, I don't have a problem with this wording. I think prioritize the needs, replaces balancing in a positive way. And so I say, why don't we say yes and wordsmith?
okay.
Um,
So that's, yes, wordsmith.
You're starting to see a pattern of my.
Yeah, I see that. Part of it is the way that we allow short-term rentals. If you have corporate things going on, but on the other hand, I don't mean to, I'm not playing the devil's advocate, but well, if someone wants to fix up a house, you're never gonna recoup the cost of that work that you did by doing a long-term rental. So sometimes it helps people fix a place up
And
If that-
stay.
if
and
that-
stay, yeah.
If that were true, there wouldn't be people in town who own 20, 30
Yeah, and that's not right.
long-term rentals.
Yeah.
No, but,
Oh,
but the
that's
statement you just made, that you could never recoup the cost,
Yeah,
then how are there people, there's like a handful of people that own over 100 rental properties.
well, there's slumlords, or
Well,
they're
I'm just
I
saying,
think
that
that's
clearly
being-
there's an economic driver for
And it's
long-term
being
renters.
addressed in the short-term rental document because they're looking at, people who live here and own the short-term rental versus corporate people. I think that's been a big issue that they're looking at.
It's something that we're gonna have to
addressing.
look.
But if we're like, this is the comprehensive plan, and these are like key issues, and so I want these statements, so when we go in to talk about short-term rental regulation,
Yeah, that
ADUs,
we recognize.
we have these, I would say that my proposals, I'm biased, are better reflect the actual situation and where the direction we want to be going. And I think these other ones are sort of like, they're a little bit of milquetoast. They don't really offer any direction for us and where
I
we
hear
really
what
want to
you're
go.
saying. Yeah, I agree with you
So
there.
I think, I agree, I don't think this wording change is, it doesn't bother me. And I think we're gonna be bringing this, in a joint meeting to the trustees, and these are things that it's like, you propose this, it's well done, and we just bring it into the joint meeting and discuss it and see where it goes from there.
Okay.
Because, at this point, it is gonna go to that, and I think there are gonna be questions.
Those are planning commission things. So that's for the planning commission.
Right, but it's still gonna go, if we say on this document that we're looking at and working with right now, that we, agree that we want to rewordsmith this. And then, once we have the joint meeting, they're gonna look at this and we can discuss it at that.
Just as so what my understanding of what our job is, right? Okay, is to basically approve a comprehensive plan as a planning commission, not as a joint thing, but as a planning commission, and then give that to the board.
It's a guidance document and the board gets to put it into law if they want to.
Right.
Right,
And-
exactly,
and
so
so
they
that's
have
their
a say in it.
Yeah,
Sure, but
They have the final
we
say.
first have to, we have to decide what we want to do. We have members of the board on the planning commission for that reason. But it isn't really like, at this stage, a sort of a back and forth between the whole board and the planning commission. It is our job to put these things forward.
we listen to the people, we've created into a plan and we approve it, and then we present it to the board. And their power is that they can take, they can listen to us, or I guess they can put, they can create the law.
I mean, I'm happy to bring it up and have the conversations. I think that is a good
Well,
place to have it.
I'm just thinking our job here tonight is
Yeah.
to say yes or no.
So
And
let's-
then this
for our
is the
own
way
benefit.
that then the planning commission can say, okay, they need to work on all these things. And now we go to DOLA and ask for, extension, and then it comes back to us. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get a chance to go round and round again on these things, I'm sure. So I'm just saying, let's say a yes to that and, wordsmithing
Yeah.
and move on.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so, the next is, comment 43, Appendix B, infrastructure water. Be sure the comp plan adequately addresses CRS 3123-206 DII, the water supply element, quote, "The planning commission shall consult with the entities that supply water for use within the municipality to ensure coordination on the water supply and facility planning. And the water supply element must identify water supplies and facilities sufficient to meet the needs of the public and private infrastructure reasonably anticipated or identified in the planning process."
Yeah, I vote yes.
Yeah,
Isn't this really just back to a water element?
Yeah, but that's what she's referring to, that in the appendix, that just to be sure that this is addressed again.
That's good because water's,
You know, one of the things I really, wanna address here is both with this and with the housing needs study is the reason we need it is for our town to make decisions. Yes, we all know that. But also when we have people looking to move here and maybe start a business or thinking, oh, I want to do a short-term rental. It's like we need this in place so that they know what they can do or not do and what the town's looking at. I think it's really important for that because you get people who move here and then they're like, oh, I thought I could do this, but it's like, no, that's not in the town's vision. So once this is approved and published, people get a clearer idea of what our vision is and what they can do or not do, or what they're, it's not a pie in the sky. I can do anything I want when I move to this little tiny town. So I just, I want to hold that vision as to why these documents are important. Not just for, us to make decisions, which is the most important, but also.
so to make the wording clear is what we've been doing, so it's not just.
Well,
Yeah.
and to really, get on with this so that, it's like right now, people can move here and there's no short-term rental, anything, and there's no this, anything or that. And they can move here and start up and do anything they want. And then we, make regulations and they're like, wait a minute,
Well, technically, there is an ordinance that says you can't rent for more than less than 30 days.
And if it's not in the land use code, it's not allowed. So that supports
But
that
I
too.
mean, it's like, I know people who have bought places in Hotchkiss, say, and what they've done is gone to the master plan before they bought it and said, what is this town looking at doing? And does it suit my needs or not? So, I think it's like, we have a lot of work to do on this, but I don't think we should dally. I think we should get it, really work on it and get it done so that
I agree.
we do have a vision for the town to follow and for people coming from the outside.
Do you know Tom Wills wrote the Hotchkiss master plan? It cost him like $16,000.
Okay, we're in the weeds.
I know.
Just one question for this last one. If we were to do a water element, would this section be necessary as an appendix? It seems like it seems like a quasi element added in here. I mean, I could see reworking this whole section into a water, essentially into the water element.
And so I think she's referring to that in Appendix B, we have a infrastructure water, but be sure the plan addresses it. So I think it's a yes. But it doesn't have to be in that Appendix B, it just has.
Right. I'm saying, but it's sort of like, yes, we should add that in, and that should be part of the water element. And this water section, at least some of it, should be kind of the beginnings of our water element plan.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be an appendix, It's kind of an important part of the plan.
Mhm.
Okay,
And it's
So we
same
have
with
more.
44 addresses the same.
okay, ensure the water supply element includes water conservation policies to be determined by the municipality, which may include goals specified in the state water plan adopted pursuant to 37-60106.3. And may include policies to implement water conservation and other state water plan goals as a condition of development approvals, including subdivisions, planned unit developments, special use permits, and zoning changes. A municipality with a master plan that includes a water supply element shall ensure that its master plan includes water conservation policies at the first amending of the plan that occurs after September 14, 2020, but in no case later than July 1st, 2025. That's kind of an interesting thing because we sell our water to all these out of town people, but so can we only regulate ourselves with conservation and not everybody else who uses the
I
water?
think if we sell the water to them, then,
The water plan includes it all.
but that's
It's an
again,
interesting.
another issue, yeah. But I think this is pretty similar to 37.
Mhm.
And so, you know, it's a yes, and that to just be, she's just saying, be sure it's included, and I think it's important to be included. Because we don't have a water element, and that's the biggest thing we need to include in this plan.
Yeah. Well. Okay, it's kind of funny because that plan is kind of like this massive document that's here. And then all the changes, you know, it's kind of hard to like see,
Yeah,
you know,
well, I think that's why we've gotta get, like, right now, we've just gotta get what we need from Phoenix Rising, so that we have sort of a little bit more of a final document. We should have a working session where we go through and we need well, we need to be able to like write it out. We're not gonna be able to just sit here and talk. We're gonna have to like work on the sections that we wanna.
figure out how to format it the best, to be
Yeah.
the most economical at the time.
We do two sessions where we do half the document and the other half the document, once we have these other things ironed out.
Are you saying if we do that with Phoenix Rising?
No,
Oh, okay, good.
no.
Yeah,
mean-
because I don't think it's as huge as we think it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, I'm talking about like little items and this and that. I mean, I think the biggest one that I saw was really the comment of changing the objectives and the policies. That's getting, those are, but I think that's a conversation for us to have if we want to go down that road. Maybe we do that for one of them to see what that looks like and see if that's.
But she did that already.
For
I mean,
two
I-
simple ones, it was the recreation. and-
Yeah, but it gives you an idea, and I think if we had that, we could pop in these things much more easily.
Yeah.
Because right now, it's like you're trying to find, and that was her, you know, the idea of why changing the formatting so it was flowed better, was simpler. And then, you know, the biggest thing in my mind is getting the maps that we require and the whole water addition. And, you know, and we pretty much have that outlined, and the rest of these are just little tweaks here and there.
Well, yeah, the maps, and wasn't there another element, another thing that had to be included in order for us to
The
be-
water,
The water.
there was water, yeah,
And the geological hazards, that was important.
yeah, and that was part of the map.
Yeah, maps.
So I think, you know, it's like, we don't need to make a big deal of this. I think if we do change the formatting, so it's easier for us to follow, and then the maps are there, I think it'll become much clearer.
Yeah.
You know, and we won't have to spend months and months making these changes. I really don't want to, because I feel it's important to have this document for the town to work from. And we have a good, you know, we have a good beginning
Yep.
with what Phoenix Rising gave us. There's a few more hours so the town can decide what they need most from them to do. And then, you know, once we get those elements, we can just go for it.
And how, like, I guess I'm just like, I'm wondering structurally, like, how do we do that in terms of the meeting? Are you thinking like, it's like you pull up a document on a screen and we just go through page by page and we just work
Well, I
our way
think-
through the whole thing?
I think this is a really good working
Yeah.
format. You know, there are a few, I made some comments, but it was mostly wordsmithing, and it's not, they're not really in here. And, you know, adding the dark sky element now that we're a certified town. So I think, you know, there's like, okay, here are a few things where we wordsmith. Here are things where we actually have to add a whole new section, the water. And here are the maps, where do they go? And so, yes, section by section, taking those elements, but I don't think we need to go section by section and re-wordsmith or change things or whatever, it's all there.
I think the thing when we have our joint meeting is, do we have to have a water element in the initial comprehensive plan that we pass? Right, there's the housing element and the water element. Are we going to include those in like, are we passing one comprehensive, because we sort of talked about this last time, right? Like, are we gonna pass one comprehensive plan, or are we like gonna call out that we're passing this without a water element, without a housing element, those come next?
Well,
My-
water's pretty important.
Yeah, my understanding was we're asking DOLA for a extension so that we can get those things in. And, you know, the housing plan, that's, in my understanding, that trustees are working on that, and then it comes back to us. But I think in the end, we need to have a public meeting and then pass the whole thing, have it all together. Because otherwise, we'll go on and on for the next unknown amount of time, you know, because I think we have all the water plan is, Ridgeway has a great, you know, beginning there. I think, you know, Bill Bruner brought up some good ideas that we can just pop in. And we don't need to say what needs to be done. We just need to say, what do we need to identify as concerns and future things to look at for the town?
Right, but we're not gonna be able to sit down in one session, go through
No.
just the things that was in the planning commission, rework like the objectives and kind of, that's a lot of changing in format and come up with a housing element and come up with a water. So what's our roadmap here? Like what's the next thing? What's the next milestone we're trying to get to?
Well, my feeling is I do like changing the format because I think it's gonna make us easier for us to work with
Yeah.
him. And Paige has offered to do that maybe with some help. Because it's a big nut to crack.
Yeah.
But, and then you know, and then the water element goes in there, you know, which we don't have, and we need to fill in those blanks. And
But that's not, so next milestone is just working with what we have before we add water or before we add housing. Let's get what we have here down, even if we're not passing it right now, at least like
so
something.
we didn't we just do that today, yes or no?
Are you saying it?
No, because we've got a new format for objectives, we have a bunch of stuff to wordsmith. So we have to go through that, right? We still,
Right.
that's gonna take us, it's gonna take us some time. I also think that we should be doing this with our full body. So I do think
Oh,
that
yeah.
we need another appointment on
Well,
the
yeah, I
planning
think
commission.
the trustees will appoint another,
Yeah.
you know, person to replace.
So that's probably next Tuesday,
Yeah.
I'd imagine.
But no, I agree. We need the full commission and, you know, and it is gonna take some time, but we need the extension to get that time. And we need to know what it is, then we can plan. You know, what's first, what's most important? To me, if we're gonna change the formatting, let's do it right away so we can pop in.
Totally agree. I think we should change the formatting and go through, like, get all of what we have here now and then move on to water and housing. And that way we have a format to follow.
Right.
We have some wind at our backs. We've come to some agreements and we're feeling like we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, because those are the empty spaces that we fill
But we're not gonna get that. I mean, we're not gonna be able to do that on September 4th, I would imagine, because that's.
in. No, that's why we're asking for an extension.
Right. So then the next meeting is gonna be October sometime.
We
Maybe we can-
have a September meeting.
That's the
Meeting.
joint meeting.
We can make meeting, if you want to make a meeting at any time.
Yeah, we can have.
I think we should wait until we have.
The
We should
next
wait.
member,
Yeah,
okay.
No,
So that
yeah, I
would be
definitely think that
next
probably
meeting.
by September, we will have that, and
Yeah.
Paige will be back.
Because it's
She
the
had-
20th already tomorrow. So I just want to say our original comprehensive plan is that many pages right here. And I mean, it doesn't include all the appendices and stuff, but I think it would be nice to have a document that's not too massive that we can get through, you know what? I mean, it's okay to have like a little,
sure. But I mean, but this is,
to be able to condense it would be so much easier to even work on it.
but now we're getting
I
back,
know.
we're getting into major revisions.
No, but even what Paige is suggesting, where she's wordsmithing and taking
Yeah,
out a
she's
lot,
taking out redundant things,
It
so I
might
think,
actually,
you know, and
trim it.
a lot
little
of
bit.
stuff could go in the appendix, like if you need to explain things more, or refer to back to why decisions got made. It
Yeah.
can go in the appendix. But yeah, I just don't think we need to make a huge big deal out of this, and we think we can get through
I agree.
it. You
I
know,
just, I will say, when we're just saying that, though, the idea of she's gonna just truncate it and, no, we're gonna all have to do that together, and that's the
Yeah,
difficult
yeah.
part,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So when I don't disagree, Suzanne, with your, like, let's shorten it, but then I'm like.
Oh, I think it's just gonna get.
And then
shorter.
even, I'm sure that the changes that page would make, but then if there's gonna be, there's like, are you just making a change in where something appears, or are you changing some words and some things that there's meaning there, and now we're sort of back to square one, right? Now we have to go through a new round. We don't really, if we're gonna be changing things and moving things into the appendix and changing the format, then that's gonna be the final, that's gonna then be the final draft that we are gonna have to comment on again, right? Or we're gonna have to have some form of that. So
They'll be hearing and all that.
we can't have the last meeting be like we're rearranging all the
No, no, no.
things, so.
That's why I'm saying, let's change the formatting first. So if you've got
Yes.
vision, goals, and, solutions or
But
whatever.
that's so open to interpretation. I mean, are we saying, are we just changing the title and then putting the same things there?
So if you look at what she did with
Yeah.
transportation and the other one, what she did is she did. She changed the wording from, let me find her.
So I guess what I'm saying is like, it's like hard to say without,
It's not like a big deal. It's just what she's trying to do is take out redundancy. So there's a lot of redundancy in this whole document, and that's why it's a little bit cumbersome. So she's, looking at that and saying, well, this can go in tourism, and it doesn't have to go here, here, and here.
Mhm.
There is a lot of redundancy in it, and that's okay. It's a roadmap.
but it's like if we were going through and removing redundancy, a lot of the things about tourism, things would just sort of, it's like,
We
there's
already,
decisions that are being made there that people have bias, whether people have bias that they don't even know that they have. And so if one person is going through and sort of rewriting and shortening and taking certain things out, then we're back to now a new draft. That's a new draft.
yeah, but I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, she didn't, when you look, I think go back and look at what she gave us when she redid that. And here's my proposal. She didn't really take a lot out. She didn't take things out. She just combined them. Because if they're said in 4 different places, or this doesn't have to be in land use and here and here. It just needs to be in the most appropriate category. And they're saying the same thing.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's changing it in a way that it's complete now for something completely different. I think it's just combining and, like you say, shortening it to the point where it flows and people can read it and go, wait.
I think she
What
was
did they
pretty
say?
respectful, but it doesn't have to be, if there needs to be input, we can
Yeah.
have input, but I thought Paige was rather respectful to that,
I'm
so.
not seeing, but it's also the town. It's like now we're changing structure. I'm just look at it from people from the outside. It's like we presented this final draft.
Yeah.
The final draft, it can't even be passed, so it's really not even a final draft. So I would say that we are still at a stage where we're going to need to present a final draft to the town and ask for input.
Yeah, we have to have a public hearing, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can do that,
Yeah.
and I think the public will appreciate, and that's why we need to strike out things where you're taking out public opinion, because the most important thing is to represent the people who showed up, and I know not everybody did, but that's their problem. The people who showed up to the meetings and made comments and really thought about this, we cannot remove that information,
Yeah.
No, you have to consider that, but I mean, there are things that they don't understand either, so that's why the whole body is involved
Yeah.
as well. But, you know, their comments are definitely
Their comments are really,
valuable.
that's what the plan is about
So,
your community involvement and comments.
so to sort of sum up, so we're going to have a meeting on September 4th. We're going to ask for direction on those items from the board that we need from Phoenix Rising. We will attempt to set another meeting, maybe a mid-September meeting where we can come together, rework the formatting, maybe Paige, or maybe we can have that like, you know, or like not, maybe we don't try to do that all in the session, but kind of have something where we can kind of go through and then try to get to basically, you know, the items that we want added in here, like we go through all the wordsmith in that mid-September meeting, go through the wordsmithing, come to agreement. That won't include a housing element or a water element. That would probably come in if we're really lucky and we're being really good work. That's going to come in on our October meeting.
Right.
And then we would maybe we'll have a mid-October, another mid-October something because we're gonna have to bring in the stuff that the maps and all those things. And so maybe we need we'll have a working session in October, and we're gonna try to get to a November meeting where we would try to pass this thing.
Or get public hearing, because we need to
Oh,
give
yeah.
the town plenty of time to put all the notices
Yeah.
out. But yeah, I think the maps, a lot of them exist, we just have to gather them, so I don't think, yeah, but I agree.
I mean, I'm just trying to lay out what I think is a reasonable timetable,
Timeframe.
So
and that's
what,
pretty aggressive, I think, so.
yeah, because the town's gonna be doing the budget and all that kind of stuff. There's gonna be a lot of stuff is that correct, Samira? There's gonna be a lot of stuff that you guys are gonna be involved in this fall, with the budget?
Yeah, there's a
things like
work
that?
session on the 27th for strategic planning, and I think they'll be introducing the budget timeline then, but I know Stefan wants to start the budget pretty actively in October,
Okay,
So
so
September 27th,
strategic planning,
August 27th.
oh, August.
the strategic planning is what date? August 20th?
August 27th, it's a work session before the regular meeting.
That would be kind of interesting, that's more short-term planning. Okay, so I mean, okay, so depending on what we need from staff, so do we have questions for Dola? What are the questions we're expecting to have answered from them, like time frame, extensions, what they'd like to see? I mean, I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there.
I think, you know, we already gave them a proposal of, you know, what the master plan was gonna be, who was gonna do it, and then they gave us a grant.
Mhm.
And so now we're just saying we can't complete it in this timeline. So, you know, we want to extend it to this date. I don't
I'd like
think
to
we
see that
asked them.
proposal. Okay, the Dola wants to see us succeed, you know, it's
Yeah,
not
I
like they're just
totally-
gonna be.
And, you know,
They wanna see things.
I'm sure whoever is gonna be submitting to DOLA will show them what we already have, and then here are the things that are missing and need to be included, and we need to keep working on.
Yeah,
So I don't think that's
yeah.
our issue at all.
I think it's just, can we get an extension until when?
Yeah,
And, you know, if we can't, what is it
I-
do they need more? They need more, right? But I think we're kind of guessing until
yeah.
someone has a conversation.
And
It's not
that's
a-
already, you know, they already, you know, both Stefan and Paige know that. They're just
Yeah.
waiting, you know, and that's why we did this today. So they know, okay, well, here are the things. These are not big deal things.
Yeah.
In my mind, anyway. And, you know, again, and the biggest thing they're probably gonna have to say is we need more maps included and we need a water.
I mean, I would say, I do think the housing element and the water element.
Well, the housing is already in works, so it just has to come back to us.
You know,
And it works by,
We
Phoenix.
spent a year on the whole housing study. First, the community involvement, then public hearings, and that there was a consultant that went, you know, worked with the whole thing, and then it went to us and we said, okay, but here are concerns we have. And we kind of conditionally approved that we would recommend it, but we needed it to be, there was some issues that we had and then it went to the trustees and they've been working, I think.
So
we're
you're
working
saying
on it.
there was a housing element that is no longer in the.
No, a
comprehensive
different
plan?
group
They keep
did the
referring
housing
to,
element.
yeah,
I know, but
the
like,
housing action plan, have you seen that on?
yeah, but this is, but I
I
mean.
don't know how it dovetails.
I mean, currently, we do not have a housing element, so we're gonna have to sit down and.
That housing element is huge and it's already been done with a consultant and worked on, and it's just kind of being
As
fine
the housing needs assessment?
Yes,
Okay.
And so that would, the idea
And the
was
housing
that
action
this
plan.
separate contractor would work with the commission, the trustees and the public on coming up with a document. And then that would get put into this because it was too big of a thing for this group to actually come up with housing needs assessment.
so the thing that's a little bit questionable though is ADUs, because ADUs were a big part of the housing action plan and the water moratorium. And so it's kind of slowing everything down because why does short-term rentals and ADUs have to be, why can't you address short-term rentals for now? The town can address that in their code.
It does.
Yeah, I know it does, it just says they're not allowed, but it's obvious that, I mean, people do, so do you allow them in certain areas of town? I mean, it's like, why can't this be addressed, why does it have to be adopted with this whole massive document, and we're just like, we can't do anything
I don't think it
until.
does.
I don't-
I don't think it does, but the business we have at
And the
hand
water
is getting this thing passed right now. And
Yeah.
That's what's on our agenda.
So they were saying like the housing element, it wouldn't be, we'd adopt it, but it wouldn't be, it wouldn't, until the water moratorium was lifted, you couldn't use it. And that's one of the thoughts that I think Shay was saying, it's like, well, we'll just have it there in the wings, but it's not useful until the water
Well,
moratorium
yeah,
is
you
lifted.
can't add, I mean, and that again
So
goes
that's
back to my
confusing.
comment of like, if you have somebody who's looking to move here
Yeah,
and they're like, well, what is, you need some document that says this is what the town's looking at. Right now, that document said, here's what we would do if we didn't have a water moratorium, but we do, so we can't do it. So if I was coming to this town and wanting to buy property and invest and set up an ADU, I'd look at that and go, maybe I won't go
yeah,
to this town, I'll go to a different town. So it informs people about what's happening and what the future projections are.
yeah,
So I think it's important to say, we have a water moratorium, so it's right now, but if we didn't, or if it gets lifted, then this is what we're proposing.
if we have the water,
If,
and we don't know what our water resources
well, but
are
see,
like,
I
so-
mean, that's neither here nor there in terms of the water. If we don't have water, we'll have a moratorium.
So
So
If we
what
have
I
a
saw is
moratorium-
that.
my question is much more basic, which
Yeah.
is, when are we, like, we've got to see a housing element, right? Like, it's like one of these things was we need that, it has to be in there.
Yeah, and we have one.
I think it's way too.
Not in this,
lenient,
not in
way
our
too-
final document.
They say that we have
So-
it, but it's like, you can't find it, it's like
No,
so
it's
weird
not.
because we're given this comprehensive plan, but
Can you-
there's no housing element in it. Because it's like this other document that's never included with it, and that's the
But
thing
we've
that's.
already seen it. We've already met.
Keith hasn't, he wasn't on the planning commission then.
This says final.
Yeah,
Like, so, you know what I'm saying? Like, my concern is this says final, and then there are some comments say that things need to be included in order for us to even have a valid comprehensive plan.
Okay.
So how,
oh,
Ruben.
Ruben has it.
This page on the website,
Yeah, well, what?
it's on the top banner of our website, the housing action plan.
Yeah, but that, it should be, it's a draft, it's basically. I guess,
We can just go and get
You have
it.
to find it. You have
We
to go to a
worked
different
on that
website to
as
see
a
that.
planning commission, Suzanne, we worked on that for a
Yeah,
year.
yeah, I know.
I mean,
so
and
you're
you
saying
were
you're
not-
equating the two as the same, the housing action plan and the housing element are basically one and the same?
Yes.
Okay.
And so you can go and look at it. It just isn't right now back to us for discussion.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting that we can't have action items on other things in the comprehensive plan that you can have on the housing element. That was a little strange to me too, but I don't know, we're getting in the weeds
We're
here.
in the weeds,
I think-
because that's gonna be,
So,
Ruben, is
so,
that, or
I think
Samara,
it
is
needs
the
a-
housing action plan gonna be included in the code?
The,
The
the final motion on it was that it be adopted and it has to be included in the comprehensive plan. And then I know that the code rewrite can't be finished until you guys pass the comprehensive
Right.
plan too.
So it in some way will be integrated into the code, that's, okay.
So we can make amendments to it.
Right, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying that it is gonna be there
Yeah.
as a solid document.
Well, they keep referring to it in this, but it's like, where is it?
But we know that, don't go there because,
Well, it's like the one missing appendix.
no, it's not, you can find it on the website, we worked on it for a year.
I know, but what I'm saying is it has to be integrated, so you get this
will be.
comprehensive plan, and there's the housing.
I know,
portion to
it will be
And
integrated.
that's the thing that's a little
it
confusing.
needs to be integrated into the final
Yes,
the final draft.
it will be,
This is the final draft,
no, this is,
so it was not.
they're still working on
Who's they?
trustees, do they have it?
No.
As filed?
I think it's
It was
kind of
approved, it's just waiting to be,
Okay,
the
So-
second half of the motion was that it has to be included in the comprehensive plan,
so
so it's done.
we can go and download a copy and put it in this, but it's like,
and it can be amended
it
still,
can be amended.
Yeah. because I think the whole bulk density height setbacks, all that kind of stuff.
That may have gotten changed, because, that was an issue that was brought up.
And then, ADUs can be used as STRs,
So,
something that could be problematic,
I'm just stuck on this a little bit.
okay?
Is in that housing needs assessment then? Does the things that it said we needed to have these things in the housing element, like DOLA will accept that as a housing element? Isn't it still for us to recommend, to make the recommendation or to pass the comprehensive plan? Not even make a recommendation, to
Yeah,
actually
we
pass
pass it,
the comprehensive
has to be
plan.
the majority of the.
So regardless of what the housing needs assessment is, we still have to have a housing element in the comprehensive plan, and then we have to approve it.
Yeah.
So
As the
we're not
comprehensive-
like, oh, here's the housing needs assessment, and then we just put it in and rubber stamp it. Like, it's still for us to
We have to approve
look at it, format it, make sure that it's in there. So my point I keep going back to is, we've got what we're saying is the final draft of the comprehensive plan that doesn't include a water element, a housing element, and the housing element, while we have maybe an outline or a roadmap for what that element should be, or maybe a lot of it, maybe we've got 80%, 90%, who knows? We still have to then decide what in there we want to have if we take it all verbatim, that's still for the planning commission, that's not the board, that's for us to decide.
So, Pete, but.
Is that not?
I can't answer that question, I don't know. Can either of you?
Because you might want to
Ruben or
look at it and see.
I would suggest you
I
download
definitely,
it,
Wait, pardon?
then poses questions, he finds issues,
At the joint meeting,
that's what I think.
I think it's a good question for the joint meeting, because I can't answer that.
But I don't think it's we're the ones who passed the comprehensive plan. So it's not so much, there's not really
Well, your question is, why isn't it here? So
Oh, yeah.
that's your question.
yeah.
So you
It's
can
like
ask that question.
massive, it's a huge document.
It's a
Yeah.
huge.
Right, so it doesn't sound like it's appropriate to be like, this is the housing element. It sounds like we need a housing element that references that plan. But we need a housing element to include in our
I
final
see what you're
draft.
saying, yeah, so it doesn't have to be the massive document, it's just like. Yeah,
We have to
Okay.
write
Let's
a,
bring that up, because now,
you're right, I see what
it's
you're
like
saying.
nobody knows how to answer it. And so let's bring that up at the joint meeting. It's a good question. It's, And just,
Okay.
you know, how is it gonna be incorporated and when?
Yeah.
So that, you know, whatever,
Okay.
but it's time to go home.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
so
much.
we're gonna see each other. The next meeting is,
September 4th.
September 4th. If you're interested in just hearing about strategic planning, that one's on the 27th, if you just want to be an audience member watching that.
I'm
This
gonna be
month.
gone the last 2 weeks in September, so if we do decide to come up with a meeting.
Okay.
I will be gone.
Okay,
The last week.
The 15th through the 27th or
Of September.
something, September.
Okay.
okay, great. So it's kind of funny that the comprehensive plan has no action items, but the housing study has all these action items. So I'm kind of like,
How to reconcile.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've got some good, I think it was a very productive meeting, so thank
Yeah.
you.
think
Both
so.
of you, and,
Well, we got to talk a little bit, so that was really valuable.
it was good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
thank you. So
Really
let's
appreciate it.
close the meeting.